characterized and I think sort of generalized as this sort of reactionary, and I think this is false, right? It is false, but this is the problem now, right? Is that it's been, in a sense, defined as anti-Wall Street, anti-Feds, anti-big banks, withdraw your money, do this, do that, do that, do that, do that. That's all well and good, right? But since it's so reactionary, is its main opposition an introduction into the social fabric? Is it in opposition to the banks? If it is in opposition exclusively, and I hope it's not, but if it is in opposition exclusively, then it is looking to replace an existing force relation, right? Through no other means than domination, right? So when it's said that we're going to have national, international bank withdrawal date, I'm not here to say if it's good or bad. I don't really care. My opinion is it doesn't matter. My function in all of this is to allow you to see the structure, the paradigm, which is governing the occupation movement. And it's all theoretical. You decide what you want to do. But what you need to recognize that if I'm saying that this movement is economic and we are directly going to challenge the existing economic institutions, then you had better recognize that the occupation movement will invariably become an occupation of the economy, right? It will become a movement that becomes economically based. And I don't think that that's bad or good. It's neither bad nor good. If it happens, it will happen, right? If it's the case that what we're doing now is not just a patchwork, piecemeal, regulatory, deregulation, blah, 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 but we are really challenging the societal fabric on which our economic institution rests. And we recognize that that societal fabric on which our economic institution rests is power and the relations of power that the existing institution has to the other societal sort of force relations. It had better be the case that the occupation movement isn't just about replacing the existing economic institution. Because how naive it is to think that merely replacing the existing economic institution is going to bring about any real significant change. What we'll see later in the next section is that this is the biggest misconception of sort of, sort of recreational theorists, right? Recreational theorists, they'll think that, oh yeah, we'll just replace the existing with the new, and insofar as we made this replacement, now it's transformed. Absolutely not. Because what you assume is that the occupation movement is so powerful that it in and of itself will transform the nature of the social fabric. This institution is the way that it is because it is in relationship to other institutions, other forces, other nodes of power. To simply replace this is not to transform the nature of the fabric on which it rests. So eventually what's going to end up happening, unless there's global revolutionary transformation, which is why I began with science, unless that happens, all that's going to happen is, hold on a second. Unless that happens, the only thing that's going to occur is that the occupation movement will be co-opted by the already existing social, what I'm calling force relations. Force relations is Foucault. Societal force relations is sort of my concept of the relationship, the force relationship between social institutions and the people, right? The framework on which society rests. The Occupy movement will immediately be absorbed back into the framework that it just supplanted. We're not just talking about getting rid of the banks. As John Paul Prime said, John Paul Prime, shout out to John Paul Prime. Go check out his channel. You guys, he's top notch, right? He's like, this is not about the feds. This is not about the feds. It's not about the feds, right? No, and I'm not here to get into the political discourse. That's not what I'm interested in. I don't care about none of that, right? This is a theoretical account. If it's just do away with the feds and you feel like doing away with the feds is automatically going to transform the nature of our economic structure, how naive, right? of this so that I give you a very simple example that everybody can understand to demonstrate societal force relation. We are a colony of Britain. The United States of America wants independence from Britain. So we have the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party sort of catalyzes the whole revolutionary state of mind. The United States of America gets its independence. 200 plus years later, what ends up happening? People are now protesting that the United States government is becoming tyrannical. Is there any difference? No. Why? Because all it was a replication of the system that it preceded. If all that you're doing is replicating or choosing to get rid of an old system with a new system without transforming the social nexus on which that system rests, you are wasting your time. You're also doing really, really, really bad theory. Really bad theory, right? So that's what Foucault is saying. Will it become part of one of the existing social force relations? Will it seek to destroy and replace one or more of the societal force relations? If so, which one? And what alternatives will it implement? These societal force relations have, in some form or other, coincided with the recorded human existence. These force relations, in terms of societal, what I'm calling societal force relations, institutions of power, and we'll see later that Foucault is not talking about institutional power, far more abstract, far more dense account of power, but this is not a lecture on Foucault as much as it is an application of Foucault to the movement. What you need to recognize is that these institutions of power, these institutions of social institutions, have coincided with recorded human history. There's been an oligarchy, there's been a fighting class, there's been a mercantile class, there's been an educated class, there's been a class of educators, there have been a class of advisors, there have been a class of decision makers. These have existed from the beginning of human history. The point is, don't think that any one movement or any one individual or any group of individual is powerful enough to transform that societal fabric, right? We are mortals. We're not gods, right? All that you can do at best is to localize a force relation, introduce something new into the social nexus, and await the ripples. So you have to think sort of 2 steps ahead of your current action, right? I am, as the example I gave before, and this is just a very general example, I am part of the occupation movement because I want my representatives at the point of decision making to consider human needs over human greed, and over corporate needs, and I will know that they have done this when I see legislation of this type, passed. When I see legislation of this type, passed, it indicates to me that my introduction, my movement's introduction into the social fabric has been heard. Right? Very general account. Now you might want more specific demands. You might want more revolutionary demands. That's all well and good. My point is to give you an example of how these demands trickle throughout the system and a recognition that this is not about just economics. This is about total global social transformation and reformation. Now, my concept of the potential of the Occupy movement might be far bigger than even the organizers' concept of where this could go. I really am on this sort of occupation kick because I recognize just how revolutionary this could be. We could really start talking about sort of weaving a new pattern, right? We could talk about weaving a new pattern, and because there is no limit to what the pattern might look like, right? As we've seen before, right? So we might talk about constructing taking the existing pattern and weaving a new pattern, if you will, right? With new organizations of force relations, right? Okay, cool, let's do that. There's a lot that can be done, but you can't do it unless you recognize the relationship of the occupation with the existing paradigms, with the existing social institutions. To come in and say that one institution in and of itself has enough power to transform and revolutionize all others is laughable. I don't care how many nuclear bombs you have. I don't care how much power you have. I don't care how many military men you have. I don't care how much money you have. No one, no thing is that powerful. It's all about the interconnection. That's where power really manifests, in the web, literally, and virtually, in the web. I mean, no, literally and virtually, the web is strengthened by, the spider's web is strengthened by the interconnection. Our neural web is strengthened by the interconnection. Our virtual web, World Wide Web, is strengthened by the interconnection, right? What the occupation movement needs to recognize is, how are we connected? We know you exist now. Okay, great. Occupation movement exists. It is. Fantastic. Throw yourself a party. What is your connection to other institutions? Who are your friends? Who are not? Who are your allies? How do you plan to organize your power? How do you plan to interconnect? If you are a monolith, oh my goodness, how easy is it to destroy a monolith? It's so easy. There it is. That's the thing I want to break. Let's break it. Right? That's not what the occupation movement should become. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I believe that I can help, along with many, many others, and you, to transform sort of the weaving of the social fabric. It'll still be social fabric. It'll just be a different pattern. Right? How cool would that be? It's a unique moment in history. These societal force relations have, in some form or other, coincided with recorded human existence. What is the movement's relation to power? As its existence shakes the web of societal force relations, which is far more than the institutions, it is in some sense the condition for the possibility of society itself. The occupation movement puts itself in a position, if the cards are played right, if this is chess, not checkers, there is a sense in which the occupation movement can be just more than a social protest. That it can evolve into, and this is way down the line, but it can possibly evolve into a consciousness, right? It could evolve into something far more complex than just people picketing in front of the banks, right? So I know I've probably created more questions than answers in this section of my discourse, but that's exactly what I wanted to do. So if you're left with lots of questions, at least you have a grounding to ask your question. And if you have a grounding to ask your questions, then I've been successful in giving you the proper sort of vocabulary needed in order to phrase your concerns, right? And the concerns might be, what is the relationship between the occupation movement and the existing governing social structures? How will it be absorbed into the existing social structures? How will it transform the existing social structure? What is my particular relationship to both the occupation movement and the existing social structures, and on and on and on? If any of those questions made sense, I was successful in doing this section. I will gradually make more sense and give more explanation of Foucault's power as knowledge and its application to the Occupy movement. But that concludes the discussion for now. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell. Have a good day.